the Lord, all these angels, they're all trying in every way to draw you.
Right.
There's this whole tractor beam thing. Swedenborg talks about the stream of providence that's all pulling in this way. And really, the only way that you get out of that stream is if there's something else in your heart that's pulling you in the opposite direction. Otherwise, you will just... There was some poem called "The Hounds of Heaven" about these hounds from heaven are coming to, take you to heaven. It's not merely left up to us. We're not, after we die, we're not just sort of, alone and say, I don't know what to do. I don't know where I am. No, there's a whole system there that's to draw you in. If you're the least bit willing, and Swedenborg says that he sees people who he thinks don't have a spark of spiritual life. They live their lives in drunkenness and chaos and disorder and everything. Yeah. And he thinks, I don't know, and then he just sees them like overnight. They're coming to life. They responded to something because there's the tractor being worked, it pulled them out of there. So you've really got to be pretty determined. It's like fighting a really strong, it's like a riptide. You've got to swim against a good riptide. You've got to figure out a way to go in the opposite direction, which takes a lot of strength and determination to end up going to hell.
Nothing better than getting out to the beach and you're there with your family and there's a flag that says "Good Riptide." It's like if you get in that, you're going to be safer and happier.
I'm so happy.
Than before you got in that. Like, come on, kids, let's go.
Let's go. This will take us.
Contrast that. Contrast the good tractor beam with, isn't it John Wesley, he was a preacher in United States of America, 1800s or something. He gave this famous sermon called "Sinners in the Hands of an Angry God."
That was actually Jonathan Edwards. But yes, absolutely right.
John Wesley did Methodism?
He was Methodism. He was in England. But they both had a very strong sense of hell.
So, okay, let's just say, I got the name wrong. I got the continent wrong.
I think you got it all right.
This is cool because it's like you're like ChatGPT. I can just say anything, and I know you'll correct it. So anyway, John, whoever his name was, sinners in the hands of an angry God. Now, unless I'm mistaken, doesn't he talk about you were like dangling from a thread, and if God just cuts that, we'll fall into hell.
I forget the imagery, but okay. I wouldn't be surprised.
I'm 0 for 2, so I'm probably going to be 1 for 3 on this. That's different, and there is that, like, you are like, hell is just sitting there, and you are like, your sin is so bad. You are going to
hanging by a thread.
Like the gravity is pulling you to it.
One wrong thought, one wrong move.
Snip. You're gone.
You're gone.
Contrast that with God is like the deck is stacked. Like, I'm going to try to get you to love what is good and true, and I'm going to keep on pursuing it. I'm going to keep going after you. The only way you can get out of this is to tear yourself out by hopping in and loving something that is dead set against human beings living together in love.
Just vigorously antisocial.
Okay, so it goes on from there. This is hard to believe in the world, the idea that we would freely cast ourselves into hell.
Yeah, right.
Because of people's notions about hell. In fact, it does not even look that way in the other life. It looks different for people who are outside of hell, though, not to the people who are actually casting themselves in. So it can even look in the afterlife like people are getting thrown into hell. But it says people are casting themselves in. They are entering voluntarily. And in the ones who are doing so out of a burning desire for evil, look as though they were diving in head first. This is why it looks as though they were being thrown into hell by divine power.
Oh, that's awesome. So there's even a basis in that sort of spiritual experience of thinking that people are being cast in, because it looks that way. And Swedenborg has these great descriptions of people going up to heaven thinking, oh, I just can't wait to see heaven. I've been excited about it all my life. But they really don't have the right things in their heart and mind to be there, and it's just torment. It's absolute torment, and they finally throw themselves out of there because they're dying to get back to the thing that they love, where they can breathe.
Yeah.
And I've also thought that, I don't know, but I've also thought that, isn't it human nature, especially if there's any, I don't know, that society frowns on, whatever it is, some antisocial behavior that you have or something. So you want to make it look like it's God's fault. Like,
Yeah.
I can't help. Oh, no, I wanted to go to, no, oh, what are you doing to me? And
Right.
putting on a little bit of a show,
Yep.
you know, when actually you're just, oh, that looks good. I'm going to dive down there.
So again, you'd never think, oh, there's some people who go up into heaven and don't like it there.
Don't like it?
Aren't feeling a pleasant experience there. Isn't heaven just everything's nice? You have a big fancy house. The climate is perfect.
Yeah, the temperature's great.
Heaven and hell are different. That they are these states of being, and it's like saying,
They're opposites.
I want to go see the view from Mount Everest. I'm gonna walk up there right now. I guess I'll get some hiking boots, but here I go. You can't. You have to train for a long
Not gonna
time.
be a pleasant experience.
That you can't handle the altitude up there. You can't take the strenuous nature of the climb. You can get there, but you're going to have to do some training first. So this is why
And you'll probably feel like you're dying most of the last, like, 20,000 feet up or something.
This is why we're in the world, is that we're training to be able to make that climb into heaven, is that we're getting to love the kinds of things that you love when you're in heaven.
That's right. This is why it seems so important to have good quality information about the nature of evil and to have some time to work on it. You know, choose to move away from that, because it is sticky. If you get it's kind of addictive, you know, and you can get hooked. But if you lay that aside, you know, let the tractor beam take you in a better direction.
Good riptide.
There's so much satisfaction and peace that we talked about last time, and to be had by moving in the opposite direction.
I feel like two main complaints that people have about the idea of God, especially in the context of hell existing, is one, it's not fair, it's not good and just if God throws somebody in there. Like that's evil, that's wrong, which we agree with. And the second one is, I think, indignation at a machine that lets some people fall through the cracks. Because I feel like whenever you start to talk about right and wrong, they'll say, well, what about if somebody this? Or they're thinking of someone they know. And like, well, this person, they don't like religion, they don't believe in God, but they're a good person. Are they just going to...
Right.
Because...
Or they didn't know it was wrong, or they... Yeah.
Yeah, right. This idea that there's cosmic winners and losers, and some people don't have a fair shot at it.
Yes, yeah.
That doesn't seem right.
Right.
So...
And a very deep concern that people have, like, just seems unfair.
Well,
the system seems unfair.
It's against what love itself would do. The tractor beam. Let's go back to the tractor beam. The tractor beam is trying to pull you into heaven and doesn't ever switch off.
No, true.
It's not like, well, we tried. Now they chose hell instead, so that's their problem. I'm going to go hang out with my real friends. This is God saying this. With my real friends in heaven.
Yeah.
The effort and attention of God on a single human being, it never changes. It's always trying to get you to the happiest possible place you'll allow.
That's right.
God to get you to.
Whatever that highest number is, get you to that number.
Yeah. Whatever the character of it is. This is what Swedenborg says about that. Heaven and Hell 549. The reason the Lord cannot treat everyone alike from his divine essence, which is goodness, love, and mercy, is that our evil and false preoccupations stand in the way, not only blunting his divine inflow, but even rejecting it. These evil and false proclivities are like black clouds that stand between the sun and our eyes and deprive us of the clear sunlight. All the while, the sun is trying to dispel the clouds. And he goes on in Divine Providence 337. The reason that everything divine providence does is done out of pure mercy is that the divine essence is pure love. This is what is working through divine wisdom, and this working is what we call divine providence. Then he goes on a big lettered list. The pure love is pure mercy, A, because it is at work with everyone in the whole world, and by our nature, we are all incapable of doing anything on our own, so it's no favorites. B, it is at work with the evil and the unjust, and with the good and just alike. So no favoritism. God is going to try through love itself and all the wisdom in the world to help us. It is leading people who are in hell and rescuing them from it. So you're in hell. There's
leading people.
There's still, we're still tractor beaming you.
We're making, still tractor beaming.
D,
That's right.
it is constantly struggling with them in hell and fighting for them against the devil, that is, against the evils of hell.
I love that. It's incredible. That's just incredible.
So when Swedenborg says the devil, and he clarifies the evils of hell, which would mean whatever evil we talked about before, that you're loved in, you're absorbed in, that's what's blocking you from God. Even though you feel like, I want to go after this thing, I want this thing, I want this to be my friend and live with me. God is fighting for you against that thing in you.
Yes.
Constantly.
Yeah.
Because
doesn't see you as identified with that in a sense.
Right.
You're better than this.
God is always fighting for you. Whether he's fighting for you, if you're accepting, if you're on a heavenly path at that time and you're accepting what's coming from God, then maybe God's fighting against, external things that are trying to attack you. But if you're embracing evil and loving it, God's still fighting for you. He's fighting for you against whatever it is that you got inside yourself that's blocking you.
Yeah. Yeah.
E, that is why it came into the world and underwent temptations, even to the final one, the suffering on the cross. That would be the incarnation of Jesus. That all of that was an effort of God to free us from our hells. F, it is constantly at work to make the unclean clean and the insane sane.
Wow. That's a statement right there.
So it is constantly laboring out of pure mercy.
That's really, really beautiful, because I remember some high school biology textbook that said first sentence, all things tend toward a state of chaos and decay. The basic law of entropy.
Thermodynamics.
And yet this is saying that we call it a tractor beam that's working to make the unclean clean. To make you clean, no matter how unclean you got in your life.
And the insane sane.
Yeah. And no matter how insane. And those things seem to go together, don't they? Because there's a kind of insanity. People even say that about, oh yeah, we went insane this weekend, Well, you probably don't mean, oh, we did a lot of good for people. That's not usually what you mean.
I ate 4 tubes of Ritz crackers.
Yes, right.
Went insane this weekend.
Insane. And to try to make thank heavens there's something pulling us in the direction of sanity and cleanness, because, by our own lower nature, we start out kind of chaotic, I would say.
I have 2 things I want to say about that. It's a great point. The first is, yes, we've discovered these principles of entropy. Everything seems to be falling apart. I know some people will say it's not really an exception to that, but a sort of exception to that is in the case of life, where life is this force that seems to be creating, maybe people argue not on a net, like the whole, but seems to be creating order, more ordered things out of less ordered things.
You can't understand how, like, the human brain came about, which is a highly ordered organism. And so how did that just entropy its way into existence?
So what you see in the principle of life, like if you look inside of a human body, you'll see that there is a force in the body that is, to varying degrees of success, trying to make the unclean clean and the insane sane. So in your body, if it detects that there's an area in you that's infected with some kind of bacterium or virus, and that's unclean. So it will try to make that clean. It will send all these little white blood cells and whatever else needs to go there to go, and little T cells have a little battle and try to do that. And if there's something that's insane, meaning if you've got something's out of joint or something, it's trying to bring it back into that order. Yeah. So you see that's an effort happening. Swedenborg says the human body is like an image of what heaven is, which is an image of God, which is an image of the angelic state inside each person. So there's a force, there's a precedent for this. So there is a force that tries to do that. And if you think about looking inside yourself, like if you were just to like microscope my brain, and you'd be like, there's not that, I thought there'd be more in there than there is. There's not really that much more. But you'd probably see some parts in there, if I were just to self-assess. Some things are going all right, but there's probably a lot of parts that are unclean, and insane.
Yeah.
So within each individual, it's not just like, oh yeah, there's those people over there, unclean, insane, God's fixing them up. Luckily, I live in this zip code over here. Inside you, there's a constant labor of God to lead the parts of you that are still in hell out of hell and to make them, clean them up and bring them to sanity. That's what's trying to happen over the course of life.
And I'm thinking this is not only on the individual level, it happens within us, but there was some stat that they had, because often there's been this idea that crowds, and it's true, sometimes crowds can be evil. They can do, they can do crazy stuff as a crowd.
Mob mentality.
But generally speaking, crowds do more stopping of violence. Like they will prevent, if something breaks out, other people will try to intervene. They'll try to separate people. And so it's not only within us internally, but there's also a societal effect, that's sometimes more effective than others. But that if you're going off the rails, the community will try to pull you back, like, hey, going too far here, and
that's a good point. Is not whether or not you agree with the particular formation of them. Isn't that what laws are? Laws are an attempt, by the human race in our clear, sober states to set out a structure that will make the unclean clean and the insane sane.
Yes, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, we're trying to do that.
That's right. We're trying to do
so
that.
this is like a little shadow of what God is doing all the time
On a massive scale.